This is a suspect who is wanted for an assault with a deadly weapon on a peace officer. As we were leaving our story in Diamond Bar, we started hearing activity on the scanner about coming from the sheriff's department, and they said that the suspect had just crashed into him, and so that is when the pursuit began. So we were literally over it within 30 seconds of this beginning. It started on surface streets near Ramona Boulevard, near La Puente to be exact, and then it hopped on the 605 North. He just crossed over the 10 freeway, so we are currently in entering the Irwindale area. If he continues in this general direction, he will get up to the 210 freeway, and at that point, he's either going to be able to go east or west, but you see the fast speeds that this guy is traveling at. I'm clocking him at least 100 miles an hour here on the northbound 605. Please repeat, Robert. It's a dark colored sedan, four-door vehicle, and what's unclear at this point is whether or not there is anybody else in the vehicle with this suspect. Again, he is wanted for assault with a deadly weapon on an officer, so that possibly could mean that they're considering that the vehicle is the deadly weapon in this case. But I'm going to use my doubler here. We can peek inside there for just a moment. We can kind of see the driver there, and you can see that there is significant damage to the driver's side door. There are. When we first pulled up on scene, we saw all of the units that were trying to catch up with this guy, but you see just how quickly he's going. We can only see that one unit directly behind him. They're saying he's going at least 100 miles an hour, and now that he has made its way to the freeway, they are asking the California Highway Patrol to take over if possible, because of course they're going to be best suited to follow a pursuit on our freeway system. Exactly. So we were coming back from that unfortunate fatal car versus pedestrian situation in Diamond Bar on the 60 when we heard that this was kicking off just about a couple. So he just made a transition here onto the 210 westbound from the 605 freeway. So now he's in Duarte, continuing westbound, and you can see that he did not lower his speeds whatsoever. He's still about 100 miles an hour, and I'm hearing that the police helicopter is trying to catch up to this. He is still a few minutes out, so at this point, it's still going to be just those ground units directly behind this suspect. These ground units are from the LA County Sheriff's Department. They're from the City of Industries Division, to be exact. This pursuit started in La Puente. We heard it start off of the 300 block of California Street, and it is within a few seconds from us getting overhead was when this pursuit initiated. So again, this started on surface streets, and the suspect quickly made his way over to the 605 freeway. He took that 605 north, transitioned now to the 210 west, entering Monrovia. He is very close, but at this point, at those speeds, he's not going to try a pit maneuver. I think he's just trying to keep up with this guy because he is traveling at such a high speed. And without the police helicopter overhead, they could easily lose this suspect, especially considering he's driving a darker colored vehicle. So they're trying not to lose the suspect at this point. That is why they're keeping such close tabs on this suspect. He is traveling currently at high 90s. He's basically between 95 and 100 miles an hour here on the westbound 210 and entering Monrovia. Currently, I only see that one unit directly behind him, and there's another one. I'm seeing two, so I'm seeing at least 3 units directly behind this guy. Yeah, he's exiting right now, exiting into Arcadia. I believe that's going to be Huntington Drive. Yep, making a turn here onto Huntington Drive. So we'll see if he goes east or west. He's going to come out. 'Cause Exactly. He's still on Huntington with a cross of Ivy Avenue, so he is still in the Monrovia area. And as you said, this guy is very reckless. Not only did he hit a house, he also tried to hit an officer, and then we saw those incredible speeds there on the 210 freeway as well as on the 605. Really no regard for anybody else but himself. He's trying to get away as he continues eastbound here on Huntington Drive, again in Monrovia. And for those of you who aren't too familiar with Huntington Drive, it basically runs up parallel to the 210 freeway. So if he continues in this general direction, he can make a turn at any point and get back on that 210. Incredibly, he is going at approximately 80 miles an hour on surface streets. So that's very dangerous. At some points, he's making it all the way up to the 90s. So he is still traveling at very high speeds despite not being on the freeway anymore. And I'm going to go ahead and zoom in because I think I see a passenger. In fact, I do believe I see a passenger. Yeah, it's a... Oh, here we go. It looks like that big rig's going to be in the way. If that big rig doesn't move, oh, he just clipped that big rig. And he's continuing on here. Huntington Drive with a cross of Highland. And because of that, we're going to widen out the shot here just a touch. We don't know how this is going to end, so we want to be very careful about how we shoot this. But let me tell you where this is at. It's Duarte Road with a cross of Highland Avenue. We saw the suspect lose control there and up in that on that center median, and it appears that the car is disabled at this point. We know that there's the driver, of course, and we believe we saw a passenger. So at this point, they're going to start making call-outs. The time is on the officer's side at this point. They're on the deputies, rather. That's exactly what they're going to do. They're going to very slowly and methodically ask for the passenger and the driver to come out of the vehicle, but one at a time, of course. They will first ask the driver to throw his keys out of the window to make sure that the car can no longer go anywhere. And we're now hearing over the scanner that they are seeing 3 people inside of the car. So not only do we have the driver and that passenger in the front, there appears to be an additional person in the rear seat. yeah, sometimes those windows can be very tinted and they can't see too well how many people may be back there, but they believe they have at least 3. And again, this is all ending here on Duarte. It's going to be Duarte Road with a cross of Highland Avenue. You see the train tracks there on the top of the frame. This is right adjacent to the train tracks, and this vehicle essentially lost control, which is how he ended up in that center median. But just to backtrack what we've seen, we got overhead within 30 seconds of this pursuit kicking off in the La Puente area off of California Street, where the suspect vehicle struck a house and then assaulted a peace officer, we believe, with his vehicle. It is at that point that the pursuit was on, made its way on surface streets for a little bit before climbing onto that 605 North, then getting on the 210 West before exiting at Huntington Drive, where he continued to drive at erratic speeds, anywhere between 90 and 100 miles an hour the entire time. At this point, we haven't seen any hands. I can see the driver's hands from how wide my shot is here. I can see his hands, but I don't see them outside of the window. It still appears like everyone is inside. We have not seen anyone exit. We also see that there is that significant damage though on the driver's side door. Sometimes when we see damage like that, the driver is unable to open his door, and if that's the situation that we're in here, then they'll have him exit out the passenger's door. However, we know there's a passenger, so the passenger is going to have to come out first and then the driver, which is not typical. Usually that driver is the first person they want out. In this situation, they may have to have the passenger come out first. That's exactly what they typically would like to do, is throw the keys out. That way there's no chance that this car can go anywhere. And then at that point, they like to... No, I'm actually just hearing new information. They are saying that the suspect is barricaded in the vehicle. Of course, we know that there are additional suspects, so it's a possibility that all 3 have decided that they don't want to get out, or the driver may be telling them they can't get out. We are hearing, though, that this has now turned into a barricaded suspect situation. This was such a fast-moving pursuit. It didn't last for very long, but it got very far, all the way from La Puente, made its way into Monrovia, Arcadia, and finally ending up here in Duarte. But we're still hearing that the 3 suspects are in fact barricaded in the vehicle. So if that's the direction that this is going, it means that the Sheriff's Department is going to have to request for their Sheriff's SCB team, which is equivalent to the SWAT team, to come out here and possibly bring some of their Bearcats to essentially get in front and behind the vehicle to guarantee that the vehicle's not going to be able to go anywhere and eventually take these suspects into custody. Yeah, I can actually, via the scanner, I can actually hear the officers or deputies. Okay. Yeah, let me recap real quick what happened. Just within the last 30 seconds, we actually saw the driver door open and the driver started backing up towards officers, and now he is in custody. But then another element within just the past couple seconds is now the train is passing by. They tried to stop the train, but unfortunately they couldn't stop it in time. So now we have a train passing by this pursuit, which is not what the deputies wanted. This is obviously a very dangerous situation, and now you have that train passing right next to everything that is unfolding. But we now have the driver in custody. He at some point decided he wanted to give up. He willingly opened the door, retreated towards officers. He's now in custody. And now we have the passenger coming out, appears to be a female, the woman who was sitting in the front seat with that suspect. Exactly. At this point, the deputies have to treat everyone in the vehicle as a suspect, whether or not they were a willing participant. That is something that they will figure out later. But for the time being, out of the utmost abundance of caution, they need to take her into custody as well. You see her being taken into custody as we speak. And now we have to wait for the rear seats because the deputies believe that there is an additional person in the back. And in addition to that, they will also have to check the trunk because, of course, somebody could have crawled into that trunk. So they have to guarantee that there is nobody else. But in the next few seconds, we should see that rear door open and we should see an additional person come out. Correct. At this point, we don't believe that any of the deputies were injured from the assault with a deadly weapon that occurred when we first got overhead. However, yeah, it looks like another woman who is also being taken into custody here. You see the deputy putting handcuffs on her, and once they put her in a cruiser, what they will do is a secondary team of officers will approach the vehicle with their guns drawn, and it is at that point that we will see them search the vehicle and as well as pop that trunk to make sure that nobody else is inside. But getting back to Robert's question real quick, at this point we do not believe any officers were actually injured.
Oh, no!
We have a suspect running.
Stopping car chases happening across Southern California. Subscribe here. Thanks for watching. The Chase is on.